Thank you for joining us today for this webcast called PR for Small Business, brought to you by Onabin. I'm your host, Kristen Wright. I'm also a small business owner. My company is called Kristen Wright Strategic Communications, and I'm also the communications strategist for Onabin. I'm a journalist with 22 years of experience, and I'm going to teach you some of the things that I know about strategic communication, specifically public relations today. You've probably heard the term PR, which stands for public relations. But what exactly is public relations? Well, the Public Relations Society of America defines it as a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. If you are a small business owner, then your business is the organization, and anyone you sell services or products to, that's your public. Now remember, the PRSA used the term strategic communication process to define public relations. So this is not a one-dimensional thing. We've got to look at all kinds of areas to really get down and understand public relations. We're talking influencing. That means the relationships you have with stakeholders and how you're going to affect their actions, their thinking. We're also talking about engaging stakeholders. Before we can influence them, we have to engage with them and build relationships. See, that's the next one. Building relationships with these stakeholders. And you can do that through strategic communication. Also, platforms. Think about all of the platforms where we can engage these stakeholders, where we can build relationships with them, and where we can influence them. We can do it in person at events. We can do it through social media posts and then going back and forth, engaging with them. We can do it through phone calls. And certainly we can do it through email, which I'm sure everyone who has a business does every single day. Let's talk shape. Public perception. You've got an image for your business that you need to create and maintain because the public is going to think about you and your business a certain way. You want to elevate your image to be the best it possibly can be. Let's also talk organization. That's also part of public relations. It's your company, your brand, your employees, if you have employees, who go out with trucks that have the name of your business on the side of it. Your logo is on their hat. It's on their shirts. You want these people representing your organization in the best way they can. And guess what? Public relations is so much bigger than those first 6 areas we discussed. It also involves corporate communications. What is your brand's voice? Crisis communications. Do you have a plan already in place if something were to go awry? Who's going to be the spokesperson? Is it going to be your CEO who has never read from a teleprompter? Or is it going to be someone who's got experience being on the news? Is it going to be somebody fresh out of college with a journalism degree or a marketing degree? Or is it going to be somebody who is an expert in the field? These are the things you need to consider. You need a crisis communications plan, and that's a huge aspect of public relations. There's also executive communications. What is the tone of the communication that comes from your C-level executives, which is probably you if you're a small business. But if you hope to grow, you might grow to have an entire C-suite. Internal communications. How does your company interact with one another? Is it big enough to have an intranet where people can talk, through some official channel? Or do you use something like Slack internally to speak to one another? There's also investor relations communications. If you're going to have a public company or if you've got somebody who's invested in you, how do you release all of the financial information? And let's talk marketing communications. This is a huge one. No matter how big your company is or how small, you've got to be thinking about the marketing communications. How are you going to sell your products to an audience? This is advertising. This is word of mouth. This is clings on windows. This is your brand. There is so much involved in marketing. You're getting the idea that PR is really big, aren't you? We've also got integrated communications. How do the silos in your company communicate to one another so that everybody from the owner of the company, the people running the place, all the way down to the janitors sweeping the floors are working toward the very same goals? That's integrated communications. Media relations. How are you going to get your news out to all of the news organizations? Do you do press releases? Do you have ribbon cuttings? Do you invite them through email? Do you give them a phone call? Content creation. This is key. Anything that you write needs to have a news angle or something that's interesting, like a feature story, but it needs to really engage your audiences. Events. I mentioned ribbon cuttings. Those are big deals. Also, trade shows, conferences, church bazaars, parades. Any event in your community where it makes sense for you to be there and you know that your audience will be there, you should plan to go. Social media. This is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Are you on Twitter? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram? Are you on TikTok? All of these places are the places where your audience probably already lives. Why aren't you there talking to them and showing them the value of your organization, your business, your products, your services? Multimedia. This just means that you can put your same stories on different platforms. You can do video, you can do a press release, you can do it on the internet, digitally, you can do an e-newsletter. There are so many different ways where you can get your public relations out there. I have 3 more areas of public relations for you on this slide: reputation management, speech writing, and brand journalism. Reputation management is very self-explanatory. Is your company seen as an ethical business? Are you known for always doing the right thing, for donating to wonderful causes in your community? How does the community see you? Speech writing, also self-explanatory. Sometimes you might want to give a speech. So this is a great way to increase the public's knowledge of you and how they perceive you. You can do this beforehand. It doesn't have to be off the cuff. You can film it on video and edit it so that you look your very best and say exactly what you wanted to say to the audience you want to reach. Brand journalism, this is good. This is writing stories, having somebody ghostwrite for you, or hiring a company to write something about you and then deliver it to a news agency. Whatever you write, though, does need to be newsworthy. It cannot just be a marketing piece, because your audience is going to always value real news over how great you think you are. Okay, so on the bottom row, I've got 3 question marks with blanks. I want you to think of 3 other ways that your company is doing public relations. Okay, go. This is a great spot for you to press pause. We talked about several ways companies, big and small, can do public relations. But it might be a little overwhelming for a small company, especially the ones that are just starting. That's okay. Even if you have 0 budget, you can still make a big impact with public relations. On the next few slides, I'm going to share 20 tips so that you can do just that. Let's start with number 1. Make friends in the media. Email people. Email the newspaper reporters and anchors on TV, people on the radio, people who are influencers online. Get to know them. If they're in your town, ask them to meet you for a cup of coffee. Get to know them, build a relationship that is trusted, and then when you need them and you give them a call, they're probably going to be more apt to pick up. And that brings us to number 2, pitch to the media. So you've established those relationships that are trusted. Now you can help them tell great stories and make their jobs easier. How are you going to do that? Well, you do the press releases and you write it like a journalist does. And I actually have another presentation about how to write a great press release that the media is looking for. And that's also on Onabin's Facebook page. Number 3, hold an event. You don't have to just attend events, you can make your own. Why? To invite your customers and invite the media. If you open a new location, hold a ribbon cutting. You can do a workshop and give directions on how to create beautiful art, how to sew something, how to make beautiful jewelry, whatever. You could do a fashion show if you've got anything fashion involved. Number 4, be a speaker. Speak where your customers are. You're probably already an expert in your field, so you can just give the facts. Teach somebody how to do something. Tell somebody why something is happening. Remember, this is not the time for you to be a salesperson. You are the expert and people want to hear you. This works very well at trade shows and meetings. Number 5, you can help a charity in your community. You can either do a sponsorship, you can donate your time, do whatever you can do, but show what's meaningful to you and your customers. This is like double advertising. You're doing something good, so people are going to be talking about you and your goodwill, and you'll get your name out there. Number 6, write a news release. Yeah, this is the same thing as a press release. And remember, whatever you're telling people must be newsworthy, and it needs to focus on their needs, not your needs. And like I said before, I did a presentation on press release writing in Little Rock, and it's available on the Onabin Facebook page. Another great way to have a big impact with no budget is to use social media effectively. This website at aofund.org has such great tips. Please visit because you're going to learn a lot about social media posting. Number 8, create an online plan. Are you an expert or are you really funny? If you are, start a blog or a podcast because everybody's going to be interested if they are in your audience and they're already interested in the things you do. They're going to want to know your opinion. They're going to want to know your tips for getting better. They're really going to want to hear you if you're an expert. Number 9, make a PR plan. So all this means is just get out your calendar. How does your business relate to the seasons, the holidays, spring break, school days that are out, whatever, things that are going on in your community? You can use that events calendar and make it work for you. You can coordinate your social media, your marketing, whatever, the events you go to. Just look at the calendar in your community. Sometimes, though, for number 10, you just need to be quiet. If you have a tragic event in your community, it's probably not going to be the right time to send out a funny tweet. It's probably not going to be a great idea to have, a snow sale if you've just had a huge blizzard and half the town has no electricity. So sometimes you just need to be quiet. Number 11, know your audience. Are they other businesses or are they general consumers? So are you B2B or are you B2C? Know your emotional and pragmatic goals. Number 12, define your goals. This is important because you need to know how you're going to measure your success or lack of success, and we hope that's not the case. You also need to know what the timing is to perform those measurements. Do you need to make your numbers next week, next month, or next year? Numbers 13 and 14 both have to do with building trust. So 13, value earned media. Earned media is greater than advertising. The news is more trusted than the internet too. So that just means that instead of paying to be in the news, you're in the news because of something that somebody else wrote about you. 14, use testimonials. Same idea. 90% of customers check online reviews before they purchase a service or a product. So it matters what your customers are saying online. And remember, people are going to value what other people say about you more than they will what you say about yourself. 15, work with social media influencers. Now, you don't have to pay millions of dollars to get somebody like Kim Kardashian to be your influencer, because there are things called micro-influencers. These are people who have social media followings of 10,000 to 50,000 people. So if you have something that is a little bit different, hit up one of these micro-influencers, because they might make it go viral because your product is just weird enough that people start talking about it. 16, who dat? What's the competition doing for PR? Look at them, examine everything they do, and guess what? You can cheat a little bit. You can borrow only what works from them. Also look and see what doesn't work and stay far, far away from whatever they're doing. 17, add some comedy. Walk a fine line if it makes sense. So Wendy's, I think, is the company that does this best. Have you ever seen their Twitter feed? If you haven't, or even if you have, go look again, because it is hysterical. They say the snarkiest, funniest things on Twitter, and you will become addicted. It's so great. And they have a huge cult following now. Well, you can do that in your industry if it makes sense. Of course, if you're selling something, medical related that's very serious, you probably don't want to inject a huge dose of comedy in that. But I don't know, maybe you do. So that brings us to number 18. Tell stories. Stories should show customers why they need you and your products or services in their lives. And the stories do not need to necessarily come directly from you, but you could shoot a video of one of your customers using a product or talking about your product, how it has changed their lives, whatever. But you can make it a story, because people like stories much better than they like ads. And let's say it again for the people in the back. Number 19, content is king. Content over ads. No one cares how cool you think your business is. Be authentic. And number 20, again, get out there. Community events, social gatherings, meetings, fairs, art crawls, festivals, whatever. You need to be presenting your business out in the community so people recognize you and your business and think of you first before all of your competitors. And I know some of you are probably thinking, but oh my gosh, no, I'm such an introvert. I hate crowds. I hate dealing with people. I'm just so uncomfortable. That's okay. I bet you have a friend or a family member who is not an introvert and really enjoys that kind of thing. If you can find somebody who you trust, who is responsible and enjoys it more than you do, send that person out there. It is so worth it just to get your name and brand out there in the community. This presentation took a whole lot longer when I did it in person because it was really interactive, and we also took breaks. Well, here's another break. It is your turn. What are your PR ideas? What have you done? What do you want to do? What has worked and what has not worked? What is your competition doing? Does it work? Does it not work? Just write down several ideas and go over them weekly. See if there's anything on your calendar or on the community calendar that you can participate in so that you can really practice your PR skills. On behalf of Onabin, I'm Kristen Wright, thanking you for joining us today. If you have questions, please contact me. You can reach me at my email address, kristen@onabin.org, or you can also check out my website, kwstrategic.com, and reach me on my cell. Have a great day.